Hey everyone, got a very important video for you, and it's over helpful tips on how to pick the right horse. Okay, so I've looked at thousands of horses for sale, and I've bought hundreds of them, and I want to be sharing with you things I've learned with years of experience looking at horses for sale. Let's start off with the different ways to acquire horses. Okay, see, so you can go to a breeder, okay, like a person who breeds lots of horses. They'll have weanlings, yearlings, 2-year-olds. Ways you can go to an auction, public auction, and then you can also go just buy from. Let's see, a third way is you can go buy from like a horse trainer or a horse trader. They'll have these people usually have lots of horses at their facility, and you get to look at, usually they have maybe 10, 20, 30 horses there that you can go and look for. And you can also buy off of a private sale off of an individual owner. That's another way. And the last way is you can adopt a horse. This is like a Mustang or a rescue horse. So the rules change a little bit for how I buy horses through all different. There's 5 categories there, and the rules change. My rules change. So these rules, these are what I do. This is how I buy my horses. So if you don't, you filter out what you want. If you don't like one of my rules, then don't use it. Okay. So first one is always buy a horse that is registered. Okay, there's a few reasons for this. First is it verifies its age. Okay. Secondly is that buying a horse that's registered is going to be that if you end up winning a lot off of this horse, it has more valuable breeding rights, unless it's a gelding, and then thirdly is you also know what kind of pedigree it has. There's a few pedigrees that you kind of want to stay away from. One of those, the Hancocks, they like to buck. Smart little Linas, they are a little sensitive. So if you know your pedigrees, you kind of know a little bit about how the horse is going to behave. And so something about pedigrees though is that just because, say, pedigrees always don't transfer to outstanding offspring, so you can have a horse that's got no pedigree at all but performs well, you know what I mean? And then you can, so just because, say for like people, for instance, just because if, say, parents were outstanding basketball players does not mean that their kids are going to be outstanding basketball players. Just like, so say a horse was an outstanding roping horse, barrel horse, cutting horse, does not mean that their offspring are going to have that same passion for it, the same skill set that their parents had. So that is, people kind of treat horses almost like a car, like they buy and sell them. There is also like a connection that can be made with a horse. Like there's a difference between when you go to a breeder and like you get a horse and you raise it. There's a connection that's made with you and the horse, rather than buying one that's older. And that's kind of like, when you buy one kind of like that, it's almost like buying someone else's horse. Like if I sold my horse right now, he's 12 years old. I've had him since he was a baby, and if someone else bought him and he's trained now, and if someone else bought him, then that's kind of still like almost, I kind of still feel like that'd still be like my horse. And I've seen some other people sell their horses they've had for a long time and they're riding it, but it still seems like it's the other person's horse, So we're talking about registered. So the benefits of having registration is, you can verify how old it is, its pedigree. So another valuable reason of having a registered horse is that registered horses are more valuable. And they are more valuable because of those reasons just previously stated. it's way easier. If you ever were wanting to sell a horse, it's way easier selling him as a registered horse. There's also other things in registered horses. They have like, breeding, like diseases that get passed down can be tracked through the papers. So, I remember I had a horse that had something called HYPP. So, first thing is I always buy a horse that is registered. So that is step number one. Okay, step number two is I don't buy horses over 13 years of age. Okay, the reason why is because usually if you keep a horse you plan on keeping it, say if the shortest amount of time I'll probably keep horses like 2 years, about 2 years. Usually people on average own a horse for 2 years. So if you buy a horse at 13 and then you keep him for 2 years, he's at 15, say you paid $5,000 for him, then in 2 years it's going to be, there's depreciation, like age depreciation once you start hitting like 13. Once they hit 13, their performance starts going down, and once you get to like 15, 16, usually people don't want to buy a horse over 15. So I don't buy one that's 13 or older, because when I get them and he's selling them at 15, it's hard to sell a horse for 15. Or tip number 3 is I don't buy a skinny horse. If the horse is skinny, I don't buy it. Okay, sometimes you might think, oh, it's just because he's been getting rode a lot. Maybe the person hasn't been taking care of it. Or someone might say, oh, we have too many or something, So if a horse is skinny, I don't buy it, because you can try to, usually there could be a reason why the horse is skinny. Could be his teeth, whatever, but usually, and then that is a sign of older horses usually cannot maintain a healthy weight as good, so if a horse is skinny, I don't buy it. The different side is if it's kind of a rescue horse, but if it's not a rescue horse and it's skinny, don't buy it. Alright, another tip is if the horse does anything at all when you're trying it. So if it bucks, rears, kicks, whatever, does anything that's junk like that on day one of, usually the thing about horses is that you buy it off of like basically a first date. It's kind of like you're marrying your horse on a first date. You look at it for one time and then you're buying it. But if you go to some person who's selling it like privately, or you go to like some horse trainer who's got several horses, sometimes I'll take them out 2 or 3 times, if I can. So another tip is when you're going, say if you're looking at a horse privately, I would suggest that when you don't, it's best when you're selling a horse to like not have it caught. Leave it in the field. So if you can go see how difficult it is to get caught. You want to see the whole process as if you're owning the horse, because you want to see how it is to go catch it, how it walks, how it ties, how it saddles. Some people, when you're buying a horse, they've already got it tied and saddled. You don't want to show up to a place and have the horse tied and saddled, because you're going to have to go catch that horse, walk it, tie it, whatever, Another idea is have the owner ride it first. Okay, so another tip is that you want to make sure that the horse is sound. Okay, so if you're looking at a horse, and this also goes into like vet check too, if you go in and, so if you see anything about the horse, if it limps, if it walks funny, if it's not standing right, like if it's not putting equal pressure when it's standing, that's different if it's got its leg relaxed. But if it's constantly got its leg relaxed, that's a sign, and that's kind of a red flag. So there is a whole lot more we can talk about. We're going to wrap this video up. Make sure you hit the subscribe, and then maybe I'll have like a horse buying video 2.0 coming out, and I'll also be doing videos in the field And I'm also going to be posting, say when I go acquire a horse, what me and my team does to what we first do when we get a new horse. Say we go get a horse at an auction, what's the first things that we do? Say we go get a horse from a breeder, what's the first things that we do? So if you don't want to miss out on those valuable videos, I suggest you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon.